Okay, let's take a look at every Premier League club and their best ever manager, but not based on their managerial abilities, skills or anything like that, based purely on how good they were as a player. God help the likes of Jose Mourinho. I hope Alan Pardew makes this list, I really do. Oh, and by the way, this is just strictly since 1992 because otherwise I'll be here all day. Arsenal, Bruce Rioch. Yeah, so I'm not exactly spoiled for choice when it comes to Arsenal managers. Unai Emery, yeah, he's a good boss, but his playing career highlight was getting 5 games for Real Sociedad. You all remember that club, it's the one David Moyes almost burnt to the ground. But then again, there are so many of them. Arsene Wenger played semi-professionally, so I'm going for his predecessor Rioch, who managed Arsenal for one season, finished 5th and shoved Ian Wright on the wing. But he was a half-decent midfielder back in the 70s with Aston Villa, Derby County, and hey, he won 24 caps for Scotland. Then again, big deal, Stephen Naismith is nearly 50 for Christ's sake. Bournemouth, Jimmy Quinn. Jeez, we're not starting the list off very well, are we? You might think, who the hell was Jimmy Quinn? Fair enough, I mean, his managerial CV reads like a who's who of footballing nobodies. Nantwich Town, anyone? But he managed Bournemouth for 121 days 10 years ago, back when they were starting League 2 on minus 17 points. Quinn had been a lower league journeyman striker, but managed 12 goals in 46 games for Northern Ireland, including the opener against the Republic in a 1-1 draw during Euro 96 qualifying, in a game which was so heavily policed you'd swear the IRA themselves were out on the damn pitch. Brighton, Sami Hyypia. Gus Poyet would probably have a few choice words to say about this one, but then again, that man is probably too busy self-destructing his own managerial career to worry about my YouTube channel. I'm going for Sami Hyypia. Yeah, he was a horrendous manager, spending 6 months at Brighton back in 2014. The man had won 3 league games in 20 attempts, but as a player, 10 seasons as Jamie Carragher's partner at Liverpool, winning 2 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, a UEFA Cup, a Champions League and 2 Super Cups. Burnley, Chris Waddle. Chris Waddle had a mad career when you look at it. We all know how good the wing wizard was for Newcastle, Tottenham and England, 4th place at the 1990 World Cup, but the former Football Writers Association Footballer of the Year also ended up at Marseille, Torquay, Worksop Town and Stocksbridge Park Steels. Wonder if he bumped into a 15-year-old Jamie Vardy smashed off his head on vodka Skittles while he's down there. Anyway, Waddle's only stint in management was a season at Burnley 21 years ago, where he took the Clarets from 9th in the Championship to 20th. Cardiff City, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Oh, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the man who spent most of his life in the Old Trafford bench or in the treatment room, but never moaned about it and instead took his chances when presented to him, including one of the most important ones in Man United's history. But as a manager, I mean, he could only seemingly cut it in Norway. He turned up in Cardiff halfway through the last Premier League stint, seemed to forget about organising their defence, Stephen Cocker for Christ's sake, and sent them back into the Championship. Chelsea, Ruud. Many people forget that Carlo Ancelotti was actually a key player for AC Milan. It's just people look at him these days and see a human tub of butter with eyebrows that would give those Cadbury kids a run for their money. But you can't look past Ruud Gullit, one of the greatest attacking midfielders of the 80s. He won 3 Serie A's with AC Milan, 2 Champions Leagues, and even won the Ballon d'Or in 1987. This was back when Messi and Ronaldo were learning how to walk and go 5 hours without shitting themselves. Something Gary Lineker took significantly longer to get to grips with. Crystal Palace, Frank de Boer. A man who probably caused Crystal Palace fans to hit the whiskey like there was diamonds at the bottom. Frank de Boer was a formerly promising manager at Ajax. His career now lies down the local job centre after failing spectacularly at both Inter Milan and Crystal Palace last season, but he might feel a little aggrieved to have been given less than 20 games combined from those jobs. Modern football, huh? A fine player though, the centre half won 5 league titles with Ajax and a Champions League, and played nearly 200 games for Barcelona. He also played for Al Rayyan, that club where Michael Laudrup has been hitting at since 2016. Everton, David Unsworth. No, obviously not, Jesus Christ, let me do that one again. Everton, Ronald Koeman. Ronald Koeman is the obvious answer here, one of the best players in the entire list. A similar sort of career to De Boer, he played for Ajax and Barcelona as well, but also PSV and Feyenoord, and not only that, he was a hell of a lot better than De Boer too. 4 Eredivisie, 4 La Ligas, a Champions League, a European Championship with Holland in 1988. Remember when they actually had a good team. Dutch Footballer of the Year twice. For God's sake, he even finished top scorer in the Champions League once, admittedly with 8 goals. I mean, Messi gets that done in about 3 games. As a manager, the man is a mixed bag, but I still maintain Everton should not have sacked him last year. I mean, is he that much worse than Marco Silva? Fulham, Kevin Keegan. Well, who else am I going to pick? Roy Hodgson? You'd have to go back to the Ice Age to find his playing days with Gravesend and Northfleet. Kevin Keegan is mostly remembered these days for a headset and just being the embodiment of someone falling prey to Sir Alex Ferguson's mind games. But cut him more credit, right? This man was one of England's brightest era talents. A hero of Scunthorpe, Liverpool, Hamburg, Southampton and Newcastle back in the 70s and 80s. He won 3 titles with the Reds, 2 UEFA Cups, 1 FA Cup and a Champions League. And a Bundesliga with Hamburg if anyone's interested. Oh, and he was also a Ballon d'Or winner 2 years running. But yeah, no, maybe I should have just picked Chris Coleman. Huddersfield Town, Steve Bruce. His second job in management back in the 99-2000 season, when Steve Bruce could still see his toes. He just missed out on the promotion with the Terriers before he was sacked in October after a poor start. He's nearly 20 years later and I wouldn't be surprised if history repeats itself next month. He was a damn good centre half, playing over 400 games for Man United in the 80s and 90s, winning a bunch of trophies. Leicester City, Paulo Sousa. Paulo Sousa, probably one of the weakest offerings on the list. I mean, no, Sousa was a decent player, nothing to write home about though. It's a nice CV. Benfica, Sporting Lisbon, Juventus, Juventus, Borussia Dortmund, Inter Milan, etc., but he never really held down a place at any of those clubs for long. The former defensive midfielder retired in 2002. Yeah, he won the Champions League with Dortmund and finished third at Euro 2000 with Portugal, but I don't know, I'm not blown away by him. Then again, his managerial career is scary. He lasted 12 games at Leicester back in 2010, and since then has managed Videoton, Basel and Tianjin Quanyin. May someone have mercy on his soul. Liverpool, Kenny Dalglish. This is more like it. You might say, oh, Kenny Dalglish managed Liverpool in the 80s. He doesn't count. He also managed them in the 11-12 season, rescuing them from the terminal abyss that was Roy Hodgson's attempt at management. To be fair, Dalglish was nothing to write home about in a second spell, but he did win them the League Cup in 2012 on penalties against Cardiff, where they had to rely on Steven Gerrard's cousin to miss. And lads, that was their last piece of silverware. Good lord. Dalglish is regarded as Scotland's greatest ever player and arguably Liverpool's. He certainly won more than Stevie G. 6 league titles, an FA Cup and 3 Champions Leagues. 169 goals and 502 games for the club. What an absolute legend. Man City, Pep Guardiola. Kevin Keegan would have pushed Pep Guardiola pretty close here. Sven-Göran Eriksson would have been laughed out of the building. In his prime, before he sold his soul for a bunch of cash in the Middle East, Guardiola was one of the best holding midfielders in Europe. I mean, how else do you last 11 years at Barcelona, winning the 6 league titles and a Champions League? Man United, Ryan Giggs. Well then, since Jose Mourinho could barely kick a ball, Sir Alex never played outside of Scotland, David Moyes' best days were at Dunfermline Athletic, and Louis van Gaal was a Sparta Rotterdam nobody. I'm just gonna have to thank the Lord that they gave it to Giggsy till the end of the season. Yeah, the Wales manager failed his audition, losing at home to Sunderland, come on, but spending 25 years at Old Trafford with nearly 1,000 appearances for one of the world's biggest clubs, what a great player. But you know what, an even better man with respect, morals and family values. Newcastle, Alan Shearer. Newcastle probably have the best selection to choose from on this list, but if I don't pick Alan Shearer, I'll have about 20,000 Geordies violently threatening to unsubscribe. But seriously, I know Shearer's trophy cabinet probably hasn't been dusted since 1996, but 206 goals for Newcastle and 30 for England, he's just about edging out Dalglish and Gullit for me. Southampton, Graham Souness. Considering Mark Hughes has jumped around half the Premier League with all the loyalty of a Geordie Shore housemate, he would probably wonder how he has not made this list. He was an absolutely brilliant player for Man United, Chelsea and Wales, even played for Barcelona. Well, unlucky lad, because I'm going to go with Graham Souness. A shocking manager, yes, how the hell did he let Ali Dia on the pitch, but an absolute warrior as a player. 7 years at Anfield and 5 league titles and 3 Champions Leagues, oh, and the Champions League Golden Boot one year. Yeah, he comfortably edges out Hughes. Tottenham, Glenn Hoddle. That man who once had a pop with the lads in wheelchairs. No wonder he hasn't been given a job since 2006. He might have the thoughts of a crazy person, but there was nothing crazy about his talent. The midfielder was immense for 12 years at White Hart Lane before signing for Monaco in 1987. He didn't win much apart from a few cups here and there, but he was a stunning player. Sure, he made the PFA Team of the Year 5 times. How many times has Sergio Aguero done that? Watford, Gianfranco Zola. Again, this man's managerial career really crashed and burned as it dragged on, didn't it? But he did alright in his one season at Watford. The club were 1 game away from the Premier League, and then he was sacked 6 months later. Of course he was, it was Watford. You all know what a genius he was in his 7 years at Chelsea though, and before that, Parma and Napoli. And if you don't, this should give you an idea. Even though Roman Abramovich had just arrived in 2003 with a checkbook and bids for Thierry Henry and Ronaldo, he was still desperate to keep a 37-year-old Zola. The Italian said no. West Ham, Billy Bonds. Okay, the real answer is probably Zola again, but I can't be arsed talking about him again. So let's just say Billy Bonds, who managed West Ham between 1990 and 1994. So yeah, he does count. Between 1967 and 1988, the defender slash midfielder made nearly 800 appearances for West Ham. Still no England cap though. Must have been the 80s answer to Mark Noble. Wolves, Glenn Hoddle. Yep, it's Hoddle again. I mean, who else was there? Mark McGee? I suppose Paul Lambert did win a Champions League, but no, I'm sticking with Glenn. Didn't do much with Wolves in his last job in management, except sell Jolien Lescott. Good man Glenn. But as I've just said about 40 seconds ago, his playing days were terrific. But what do you think, lads? Have I got these wrong? Most probably. Let me know in the comment section below, and yes, that beloved scarf will be back soon for all of you to pleasure yourselves over.